Almost there. Okay, we are live.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good Friday afternoon. And so we've got 4 bills to consider. 2 are very similar. In fact, I believe they may be cross files. Why don't we start with SB 718, which is a departmental bill. And Kristen, if you could explain to us what the bill does.
Sure. This bill, it relates to the voluntary cleanup of properties contaminated by hazardous substances. It's increasing the recording time for no further requirements, determinations, and certificates of completions by program participants from 30 to 60 days. It also increases the time for the department to review and approve or deny an application from 45 to 60 days, and to review remedial action completion and issue a certificate of completion from 30 to 60 days. So it's just providing more time for making certain determinations and recording certain documents in the land records.
No fiscal notes, it seems.
Right. That's correct.
Yeah, any questions about this bill?
Mr. Chair, it's just changing the deadlines. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions? Who would like to, all right, who would like to move the bill?
Move favorable.
Second.
Second? Okay, I think I heard a second there. All right. Any further questions about this bill? If not, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Okay. All right, bill passes. Thank you. Next, we have Senator Washington's SB 813. And Kristen, remind me, is HB 892 a cross file, even though they're different? The bill titles are a little bit different.
Yes, the short titles are a little bit different, but the bills are cross files. The House bill came in with mandatory funding, and a mandatory increase in funding for the grant program. It crossed over from the Senate, authorizing funding rather than mandating it. And it would, the bill also has another provision where it's is requiring at least 40% of the funding would be provided to projects located in or directly benefiting underserved or overburdened communities.
Okay.
Now, the mandatory increase in funding is out of the bill. There is administrative costs associated with implementing the requirements under the bill that do exceed that $100,000 fiscal note. So if the subcommittee wants to move forward, you can, but maybe condition that on checking in with appropriations.
Okay. So I guess general fund expenditures may increase by $270,000 in fiscal year 25 and in future years. Okay, so you're saying we could, if subcommittee wants to pass this, we could approve it conditioned on appropriations approval. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and it is jointly assigned with appropriations as well.
Okay. And the authorization is up to 20 million. Is that what I'm reading?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Someone had their hand. 2 people. Okay. Delegate Guyton.
Thank you. I guess I'm a little confused. So these are not conformed, these bills? They're different bills?
That's correct. So
Okay.
the House
So the one
bill
you just passed does not have that fiscal note attached to it, or does it?
So the Senate bill that's being considered right now and being discussed, it does not have mandatory funding associated with, but what it does have is administrative costs. The Senate bill has those costs.
But the House bill did not.
The House bill will have even more because the House bill is
Right.
still
They have the required funding. Okay.
yeah.
So are we suggesting that we conform the bills in this committee, or what is the suggestion from, I guess, the chair to handle this? We don't want to pass two different bills through this committee, do we? That are almost the same.
Correct. I mean, I'd recommend that we conform the House bill to the Senate bill.
Okay, that
To
makes
make
sense
it,
to me. Thank you.
you know,
And just,
authorizing them.
Mr. Chair, there might be a need for technical amendments. As you noted, the short titles are different. And right now, the Senate bill's short title is Comprehensive Flood Management Grant Program, Environmental Justice Funding. Because those amendments came over, directing 40% of funding to overburdened and underserved communities, I would just suggest putting that in both of the short titles. Right now, the House bill has overburden. It just for consistency, well, both would need to be amended anyway, but then for consistency of terminology, using that overburdened and underserved terminology would make it consistent with the bill's language.
So you suggest that we amend the short titles for both to funding for overburdened and underserved communities?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
And there might be just for another consideration point. Here, maybe I could even share my screen to show the bill text. Let me bring that up.
Sure. And I do see 3 committee members have their hands up, and when we let Kristen share her screen, and then we'll get to you.
You might want to go to the questions because I opened it, but it's not coming up.
Okay. All right. Delegate Morgan.
Thanks, Chair. Help me with this fiscal note again between the two bills. If I remember or heard correctly, the Senate bill only has some administrative costs attached to it, yet the House bill has a $10 million per year requirement. Have I read that correctly?
So yeah, that's correct. So the bills as introduced would have authorized or required $20 million in funding, which is $10 million over what is currently required.
Well, say that again, please. The Senate bill would require 20 million?
So it would have required $20 million to the grant program, but that grant program was already receiving 10 million. So the fiscal note, the mandated funding fiscal note was $10 million.
So it's $10 million extra.
Extra, correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
So yeah.
No, go ahead.
So I just wanted the provisions that on page 5 of the bill, starting in line 3, where it directs at least 40% of the funding to underserved or overburdened communities. It may not be clear that that's intended to start in fiscal year 2025. And the department, I think the fiscal note touched on this, that, to the extent it's interpreted as applying to fiscal year 2025, it wouldn't have any impact on projects that are currently being planned by the department. But if it were to mean projects for 2024, those projects are already being planned, and it could impact just the current system. So my suggestion here is to put in line 3 just to indicate that it's for fiscal year 2025 and beyond.
Okay. Let's see who else. Is their hands up? Delegate Terraza.
Yeah, I'm just trying to follow the change in the name of the bill. Like, are we taking out, if we follow Kristen's suggestion, are we taking out environmental justice? Or am I?
That was my suggestion. I mean, as a technical amendment, just as you see in line 7, we're referring to funding for underserved or overburdened communities.
I guess I just personally wouldn't want to see us, whether we keep both, environmental justice dash funding for overburdened communities. I don't personally want to vote to take out environmental justice. It's just my 2 cents.
So Kristen, would it be possible to keep in environmental justice, strike funding, have another dash and say funding for
Underserved and overburdened.
yeah.
Same.
Whatever the committee would like to do.
Okay.
It just, yeah, I mean, it just, the term environmental justice wasn't used anywhere in the bill.
Okay.
Are you saying, I'm sorry, can I just follow up? So that's because we're
Sure.
taking out.
The bill as originally drafted would have related to census tracts with certain EJ scores, and that language was just taken out. So I was just for consistency pointing out that the terminology is now underserved or overburdened communities, not to change the intent or anything with the bill, just that the terminology had changed from the original introduction.
So I don't know what others think, but I'm happy to hear what others think on that.
Okay. You mean specifically about the keeping in EJ environmental justice in the
Yes,
short
exactly.
title?
That's the only thing I was thinking about, yes.
Okay. Well, why don't we go through folks who have their hands up, and anyone wants to weigh in on that issue, feel free. Delegate Otto.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. My point on the environmental justice, I think if taking that out as Kristen and conforming in the rest of the language in the bill makes a lot of sense, and would give it more likelihood to pass if that's the way the Senate had taken out the EJ scores.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Okay.
take it that this fund is available to all jurisdictions. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I mean, they apply.
Okay. Delegate Otto, you good? Okay. Delegate, let's see, Delegate Foley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the taking out EJ in the title, I agree with Delegate Otto. I think it probably should not be there if it's not referenced in the bill, as Kristen suggested. But I would vote, that wouldn't keep me from voting for the bill either way. But I do want to be clear about what posture this bill is in, because I'm getting confused again. All right, so we passed the House cross file.
No,
right?
no.
Oh, we didn't pass.
Mm-mm.
Okay, I'm glad I asked. So we didn't pass the House cross file. This would be the first bill. This would be the bill that we would pass, and then so there is no action. This was what passed the Senate, and now we're amending the Senate bill. Period. Right. On the amendments you're talking about, the technical amendments and everything else.
The technical amendments that I raised were on the Senate bill.
They okay.
They are
Well,
on the
this
Senate
is
bill.
The Senate bill. This is the Senate bill.
This is the Senate bill that's been pulled up, correct?
Okay. I thought you said there was another amendment.
So there are two amendments, yes. So the one was just the update in the short title. And then the
Right.
second was on page 5, where it directs 40% of the funding
Right.
to underserved or overburdened communities, that you might want to consider adding language that provision begins for fiscal year 2025 and, and beyond.
Okay. So
We're already
we're
up against fiscal 20.
okay. Got it. Okay. So we're considering amending the Senate bill now with those two small amendments. And then, but there is no House cross file in play at this point. Is that correct?
That bill is on the agenda, next on the agenda. You could certainly move them both together in the same form.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Delegate Morgan.
Thank you, sir. I'd be a lot more comfortable dropping the 20 to 15.
I didn't quite catch that.
Oh, the 20 million.
The 20 million to
Oh,
15 million. So you get a $5 million bump versus a $10 million bump.
Okay. Do you want to propose that as an amendment?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So what I'd like us to do is first consider the proposed amendments that Kristen is talking about. And then Delegate Morgan's amendment about reducing the 20 million to 15 million. But before we consider Kristen's amendments, can I just see by show of hands, who would like to, there's a suggestion by Delegate Terrassa to keep environmental justice in the short title. I know there's some different feelings about that. So can I see a show of hands? Who would like to keep environmental justice in the short title? Could you raise your hand?
Mm.
Okay. All right. All right. So we won't move forward with keeping environmental justice in the short title. What we'll do is we'll change it to comprehensive flood management grant program funding for overburdened and underserved communities. That's one of the amendments. And the other amendment, other more technical amendment, is what Kristen is referring to on page 5, line 3. I guess, Kristen, you would say in each fiscal year, beginning with fiscal year 2025.
Right. So yeah, it's similar for fiscal year 2025 and each fiscal year thereafter, just modeling the
Okay.
language on the previous page in line 30.
Okay. All right. Does anyone want to move those two amendments?
I move those technical amendments.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of those amendments, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now the other amendment we have to consider is Delegate Morgan's amendment. And Delegate Morgan, you just want to sort of repeat what you're proposing, why you feel more comfortable with going from 20 to 15 million.
I feel that, we've already included 10. I think 10's a 10 million, an extra $10 million on top, which is mandated, is a little bit hard for a lot of us to swallow.
This
So
bill
I'm
is not
trying to
mandated.
compromise somewhere in the middle.
It is just authorizing, but you're saying, I guess, Delegate Morgan, you're saying you would like the cap on what's authorized to be 15 million.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, do have a couple hands up, Delegate Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since it's not, my question was whether this was budgeted, but since it's not mandated, I would guess it's not budgeted or allocated for yet. Is that correct?
Not to that extent.
Got it. Thank you.
So 10 million, Kristen, there's 10 million of existing funding that I guess would be reflected in the upcoming the budget that we're going to consider.
So the fiscal 24 through 28 capital improvement program includes 10 million in GO bonds, general obligation bond funding for the program in each of fiscal years 2025 through 2028. So we'll receive 10 million through
Okay.
2028.
Okay. Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And it is just up to 20 million, right? It's not requiring 20 million. Is that correct?
It's not requiring.
And so it really gives the governor the flexibility to decide, right?
Well, the language.
Well, the governor and the General Assembly, I guess, through the budget process.
Yeah, so the language does say may include, and then it says 20 million. So it doesn't say up to, it just says may include. It's still an authorization.
Right, but I guess just trying to clarify in the budget process, if it says if it may include 20 million, it could be 10 million, right? Because am I understanding that right?
Yes.
Through the budget process, the General Assembly and the governor could land on 10 million or something in a given fiscal year.
Right, that's my understanding.
Right. So I'm fine with 20 million. It's not requiring it to be 20 million then. And I think that gives the flexibility to, adjust as needed, given the conditions. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? well, first, let's Duncan Morgan, his amendment, he is proposing his amendment to change the cap on the authorization to 15 million. Is there a second for his amendment?
Yeah, I'll second his amendment.
Okay. Any further comments or discussion? Delegate Foley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my question is maybe Kristen knows the answer to this. I hope. Where did the 20 million come from? Is that just, I mean, is that related to some, to some cost analysis or something? I mean, where did it come from?
Like why the increase?
Yeah, well, there $20 million must reflect some,
Yeah,
some
I
sense
am
of
not
the
sure
cost.
if there was a specific target in mind. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Questions about?
Just really
Yeah, Delegate
quickly.
Terraza? Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, I meant to raise my hand and messed that part up.
that's okay.
So I'm just gonna say that since it's not mandatory and having experienced significant flooding in my county, not that they would necessarily qualify for this, but I do understand the consequences of flooding. I think I'm more comfortable with a higher number.
Okay.
That was
Delegate
it.
Gayton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Did you call on me? I'm sorry. I'm having some
Yeah,
trouble
your
here.
hand was raised.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. I just wanted to ask, not having done this sort of legislation before where numbers are authorized, I have two questions. First of all, given that we're authorizing the governor to put this money into this program, is this bill doing anything? Is the governor already authorized, or does he need that authorization? So that's question number one. And question number two is, if we put a specific number in there, and it may be a bit arbitrary, we don't know where it came from, is that signaling to the governor that if he funds it, he needs to fund it at this amount and does not have any other sort of leeway there? So those are two questions.
I'll defer to Kristen on the first question. On the second question, Delegate Guyton, I would say the fact that we're saying up to 20 million, is a signal that, the governor wants to put in 18 million. That there wouldn't be, terrible objections from the legislature. That's my 2 cents on that. But
I apologize. I think I misunderstood that it did say up to, or were we just discussing adding up to?
no, up to is in the bill as it is before.
It does the
already.
language up to, it just says may include and then says 20 million. Doesn't say up to.
Okay, well, my
Yeah,
apologies.
but it's
Okay.
still the authorizing language and not mandating.
Okay,
Sure. So
well-
does it do anything, first of all, and would we be amenable to adding the words up to?
Well, Kristen, you want to, could you
From a
handle
dr-
both of those?
So from a drafting perspective, I mean, I think saying up to makes sense. I think that's how I think that makes sense to add the language up to. The more budget side of things, and we can check in with appropriations on how this all works. They are jointly assigned on the bill. They might be better positioned to, better understand how all of this is funded. I mean, it's currently funded, but it is in statute. So I'm not sure if changing the statute from a shall to a may, I mean, it's current law right now, how that maybe it has potentially unintended consequences on how this grant program is funded. But I would have to check in with appropriations because I just don't know.
Okay, and again, if we do approve this bill, appropriations will have to sign off because of the fiscal note for the administrative expenses. So presumably they would.
Yeah, for that, and as being jointly assigned the bill.
Right. Delegate Guyton, you good? Okay. Delegate Terraza?
Yeah, just in terms of thank you, Mr. Chairman. In terms of the cost, I was just looking back the cost of the Ellicott City flood, the damages from the Ellicott City flood was 22.4 million. So I don't think 20 million as a grant program that could go in multiple places is excessive. I mean, I'm not saying anyone's saying it's excessive, but I just, in terms of thinking about those dollars and that amount.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, so we have before us Delegate Morgan's amendments to reduce the authorized funding from 20 million to 15 million. It's been moved and seconded. Can I see by a show of hands who votes in favor of the amendment? You raise your hand. Okay, one. Let's see. Okay, amendment fails. I guess we do have that other technical amendment that was really, I guess, not really technical. The adding the words up to 20, with respect to the 20 million that Kristen said, and at Delegate Guyton's suggestion, we would be putting in. Kristen, remind us what page that is on.
So that's going to be, I was trying to bring up the bill. So that's on page 4 of the bill. And line 32, probably just add language up to. Right now it had language that said a certain, at least would have to be included. There was a minimal amount that had to be included through fiscal year 2023. But this language would be page 4, line 32. And just add up to, and that would precede the $20 million.
Okay. I'll move that amendment. Second.
Second.
Okay, all those in, well, let's see, we do it. Delegate Foley, do you have a question? No? Okay.
No, I was just, Mr. Chair, I was just going to move or second the amendment.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Wait, yeah.
Oh, okay, Delegate Terrazza.
Yeah, are we changing some? I understand the language makes sense, but are we getting rid of a minimum that was there?
No, the minimum that was there went through fiscal year 2023.
Okay, so we're not changing anything. We're just sort of clarifying it by
Correct.
using. Okay, I'm good with that. Thanks.
Okay. Let's go back. All those in favor of the up to language, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. So now we have the bill as amended before us.
Move the bill as amended.
Second. Okay, all those in favor, the bill is amended, say aye.
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 Okay, opposed? Okay, thank you. The bill is amended, passes, and again, subject to appropriations. Okay. Next, let's consider HB 892. Now, Kristen, I mean, is it appropriate for me or anyone else to suggest that we just conform it to the bill as we just, SB 813 as we just passed it?
Yeah, I think that makes sense to do it that way.
Move
Okay,
to conform the bill to the bill we just passed.
Okay,
Second.
great. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Last is Senate Bill 830, Senator Hester's bill. Kristen, could you walk us through what this bill does?
Yeah, this bill we heard yesterday, there is no cross file. It's requiring 2 studies, a study on staffing needs for environmental health specialists in local health departments, and a study on the delegation of well and septic systems permitting authority. So the staffing needs would be conducted jointly by the Department of Environment and Department of Health in conjunction with the Board of Environmental Health Specialists. And then the study on the delegation of the permitting authority would be conducted by MDE in consultation with DLS and the University of Maryland Agriculture and Food Systems Extension Program.
Okay, any amendments?
No amendments.
Okay,
Well,
Question.
oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I misspoke, because we did not receive any amendments prepared by a member, but both Mako and the uh,
Uh,
the, where are they? The Maryland Conference of Local Environmental Health Directors.
Mhm.
They prefer that the study, the study on the delegation of permitting authority be conducted by an independent consultant. I think that may have been in the, well, yeah, that was in the bill as introduced. So the Senate did take that out. That
Okay.
they would have to, they originally had a contract with the University of Maryland Agriculture and Food Systems Extension Program. So not necessarily, they did identify who the contracting party should be. I think both MACO and I remember this, the Conference of Local Environmental Health Directors both want that language to require a third-party institution, just in a broad sense.
And they have specific language that they were suggesting.
It was, sorry, just heard this yesterday. They just say that the study should be performed by a third-party institution, such as an institution of higher education that does not have direct programmatic oversight responsibilities. I think because MDE is part of, I guess they would rather it be third party and not somebody who has direct connection with permitting.
And I'm sorry, what was Mako suggesting as well?
So their testimony reads that the counties joined the Maryland Conference of Local Environmental Health Directors in urging that a study should be performed by a third-party institution,
Okay.
such as an institution of higher education that does not have direct programmatic oversight responsibilities.
Okay. All right. We have a couple of hands up. Delegate Morgan.
Thank you. And I want to jump on board with that third party. I did contact with the health departments in the same areas in Calvert, and they are, I'll read real quickly. We're concerned the bill as amended would suggest MDE be to the party to conduct the study, while MDE in the original language took the position that LHDs are often the culprit in delays and communication issues. We found on many occasions our LHD has been waiting on MDE to do their responsibilities in the process. I think the scapegoating by MDE is unfortunate, and I'm concerned the mentality would then compromise MDE's ability to study a process for which they are a major part. Studies like this should be conducted externally, maybe like an academic institution such as UMD, with adequate input from LHDs around the state.
Okay. Let's see, Delegate Terraza.
Is there a difference in the fiscal note if it gets farmed out from MDE?
So I don't know for sure, but my guess is that there would be a fiscal impact by contracting with an outside party. But I don't know what that would be.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? My computer froze.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't have any information on that, but I would think that there would be added costs for contracting with a third party. Generally, there are. So, but I don't know what those costs would be. I don't have information on that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Delegate Terraza. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
You mean Kristen or me?
Oh, you.
I didn't feel cut. No, I didn't feel cut off. Someone prefer not to change the language because of that.
Okay. And I guess, Kristen, it's I know you just said you wouldn't be able to approximate what the cost is, and similarly, we couldn't make a good guess as to whether it would throw it into appropriations territory by going over $100,000.
Yeah, we don't have testimony on that.
Okay. Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I sort of remember Senator Hester addressing why that was changed, and I can't remember what it was. Does anybody know why that was changed from being a contract to consulting with?
Yeah, unfortunately, I missed the bill hearing, so I can't.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I don't remember. But does Kristen or does anyone else on the subcommittee recall?
No, I mean, I could look back at the hearing again. I don't recall, you know, sometimes there's just lots going on in the day, but if, you know, if the subcommittee would like that to be answered, I can reach out directly to the senator. I can rewatch the hearing and see what was said and follow up.
I sort of think it may have been the fiscal note, or there may have been some other, but I do remember the fiscal somehow coming into it. But I think if this was changed, wouldn't there, if we could still access the first reader fiscal note, wouldn't we be able to look at compare the two?
Yeah, I don't think and I can reach out to my Senate counterpart too. I don't think that's accessible on the website.
Yeah.
Like the first read, you know how the first reader
Yeah.
bill is available. I don't think that goes for the fiscal notes.
Right. Yeah, I don't think so either. It would be good if we could actually get that and see what the difference was, because that
Yeah,
would.
and I can reach out to fiscal notes too. I mean, I'm sure they have a copy to see if that was already you know, thought out and estimated.
Right, because I think the first reader version did have it contracted.
Correct.
And then so that first reader fiscal note would reflect that.
Correct. But there was a lot of other, I think, requirements too. So, but they usually, but they do often break out costs. So, you know, I think because that was a specific requirement that it's possible that and it may be likely that cost is broken out in that first reader fiscal note.
Okay, Delegate Guyton.
Thank you so much. I agree. I think it would be really helpful to have a little bit more information about this bill. To be honest, I think I was there, but I would probably go back and watch it myself. There are just a lot of questions at this point.
Okay. Let's see, Delegate Foley.
Yeah, I agree. Kristen, does the bill, as it's written now with the third party taken out, does that prohibit using a contractor because it says in consultation with this department, that department, University of Maryland, Agriculture, is it prohibited now from contracting with the third party to do the work?
Well, I mean, the requirement is on the Department of the Environment, and for one study to do this. So, I mean, I guess depending on how their work, I'm not sure they would. I'm not sure why they would contract that out.
Okay, well, the reason would be because they couldn't do it themselves, I guess. I guess that would be the
Right.
answer.
Right, and then that would go back to the fiscal note. And so right now,
Right.
the fiscal note anticipates the department conducting the study with its existing resources.
Okay.
Okay. Delegate Ruth or sure. Do you have is your hand up with a new question? No. Okay. Delegate Guyton. Delegate Guyton.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to lower.
Okay. Delegate Morgan.
Yeah, my hand is up. I would prefer that if we have a chance to go back and see what this cost would be, because I am trying to support both my local health officers and MACO's position of having a third party do this rather than proverbially the fox is watching the hen house.
Okay. Why don't we hold this bill until we can get that information? Is that generally acceptable to subcommittee members? I
Can I
mean,
just- Can I ask
yes,
just-
so Delegate Terraza, sure.
so, apparently DLS requested it to stay in the state government. I'm talking to a sponsor now. I don't know if that changes anything for anybody, but that is why it was changed.
Yeah, okay, well, that's good to know. I think I get the sense that at least a couple subcommittee members would like to see what the cost would be.
Yeah, and that might be because of DLS's like the sunset review when they have oh gosh, I can't remember what the new office is, but where they review you know, boards and, you know, basically, you know, they have the like program evaluation. But the bill and
Okay.
here doesn't say that. It doesn't say that that's what they're doing, but I'm wondering if that's the connection.
Anyone
Would that
object
be
to-
legislative audits? The legislative audits, is that what you?
It's not that one, it's the, it's program evaluation, it's,
Okay,
we've just
that's
had
all.
it for a couple years now. Let me see. You know what? Office of Program Evaluation and Government Accountability.
Okay, anyone object if we hold this? To get the fiscal note, original fiscal note information?
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay. That ends our agenda and for today, and we'll certainly be meeting next week, at least once. Stay tuned. Keep Wednesday afternoon just generally open. If we need to meet before then, like on Tuesday, we wouldn't be meeting Monday. Certainly let you know. But otherwise, we are adjourned. Have a nice weekend.
Everybody else too.
Bye.